Hello everyone, it's Mr. Salimata over here, and in today's lesson we'll be looking at how to plot straight line graphs from a linear equation. And by the end of this lesson, every student should be able to generate coordinates and plot straight line graphs from a linear equation. Okay, so let's look at our first equation over there. So our first step would be generating coordinates. Yes, and how do we do that? So we do that by finding our x and y values. Okay, so I'm just going to put my table of values over here. My x values will be here and my y values will be there. Okay, so now we have to choose x values that satisfy our linear equation over there. So for x values, I usually advise students to choose at least 3 to 5 values. So for me, I will pick, or rather choose, -1, 0, +1, and 2. So I have chosen 4 x values. Okay, now these are not the only x values that you can choose. You can choose any x values for as long as they satisfy the equation, but I usually advise students to at least pick small x values, as they are easy to calculate and to graph. Okay, so now that we have chosen our x values, how then do we find our y values? So how we can do that by simply substituting our x values in our linear equation over there. Okay, so let's do that together. Okay, so just write my first y value there. I'll label it as 1. So that's y equal to 2. Yes, I'm dealing with my first x value here, which is what? -1. So I have to substitute it on my x right there. So -1, plus 1. And if we work out this equation over here, 2 multiplied by -1 gives me -2 plus 1, right? So my y would be what? -2 plus 1. That gives me -1. So my first y value is -1. So let's find our second y value. And remember, we have to what? To substitute our x value, which is 0 over here, in our what? Our initial equation, which is 2, open brackets. My x value is what? 0, yes, plus 1. Yes, we solve our equation over here. 2 multiplied by 0 gives me 0 plus 1. Y equal to 0 plus 1. That's what? That's 1. Yes, so my second y value is what? Is +1. Yes. Okay, now let's calculate our third y value. Okay, so I'll label my third value over there, y value. So that would be y equal to 2. Yes. 1. Yes, plus 1. We solve our equation. 2 multiplied by 1 gives me 2 plus 1, and 2 plus 1 equal to 3. Yes, so I have now found my third y value. Okay, let's now find our last y value over there. Remember, what we're doing is what? Is simply substituting. I think you guys should be able to get the pattern right now. So 2 multiplied by 2, that gives me 4 plus 1. Y equal to 4 plus 1, that's 5. Okay, so here we go. We have now created our our x and y values. So now I want to write them in coordinate form, because usually you might be asked to write maybe an answer in coordinate form, right? So I want to write my x and y values in coordinate form. Just allow me to erase that, so it's easier for us to just see what I mean or what I'm talking about. Okay, There we go. All done. Yes. Okay, yeah. So my first coordinate will be what? Over here. Yeah, I'll just put an equal sign to my x and y values. Yes. So my first coordinate is -1, comma, -1. My second, 0, comma, positive 0, comma, positive 1. Yeah. My third is 1, comma, positive 3. My fourth, 2, comma, positive 5. Yeah. Okay. So now something that you guys have to remember is this right here, my x value, yeah, y, x, y, x value, y value, x value, and y value over there. Okay, so now that we found our coordinates, we can now plot them on our what? X and y plane. Yeah. Okay, so now if we look at our plane over here, yeah, we call this first quadrant, second quadrant, third quadrant, and fourth quadrant. Yeah. So in our first quadrant, our x and y values are what? Are positive. Yeah. So I'll put like x and y, they're positive. And in our second quadrant, our x value is negative and my y value is positive. Yeah. That and that. My third quadrant, both the x and y values, they are all negative. And in my fourth quadrant, my x value is positive. Yeah, sorry. My x values are positive, yeah. And my y values are what? Are negative, yeah. So let's not forget this, okay? Let's not forget that. So allow me to just erase that, yeah. Yes, okay, so let's try now to plot our graph. Yes, so this right here will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, that's +1, +2, +3, -1, -2, -3, -1, -2, -3, -4, and -5. Yeah. Okay, so we have our coordinates here, so let's plot them. Yes, so remember, when you're plotting the graph, you always have to start with the what? With the x value. Yeah, so our first, yes, so our first coordinate is what? -1, comma, -1, -1 over here, and -1. Yes, our second coordinate is 0, comma, +1, right there. Third coordinate, +1, comma, +3. Yes, and my last coordinate is what? +2, comma, +5. Yes, somewhere there. Yeah. Okay, so our next step now would be what? Would be just joining all the points that we have over there by simply drawing a straight line. Yes, so now I might not draw a straight line, yes, because I don't have like a ruler. Yes, but I'll try to draw something closer to a straight line. Yes, so connecting all my dots. Yeah, yes, all my dots over there. Okay, yeah, so it should look something like this. Yeah, it should look something like this. Yeah, okay, so there we go. We have found, or rather we have plotted our y equal to x plus 1. Yes, so this is our graph for our first linear equation. Yeah, okay, so let's look at our second question. Yeah, okay, so now let's look at our other question over here. Yeah, we have a linear equation of y equal to 2x plus 3, and we have to what? To graph this linear equation over here. Yeah, so remember, the first step that we have to do is we have to generate our coordinates. Yes, so let's do that by just creating our table of what? Of x and y values over there. And for my x, I will pick or choose -2, 0, and +2. Yeah. Now remember, I did mention that I usually advise students to pick at least between 3 to 5 values. Yeah. So for this one, I've decided to use 3 values. And as I advised earlier, it's best if you at least use, or rather choose, small x values, because those are easy to calculate and to what? And to graph, yeah? Or rather to plot, yes? Okay, so now let's find our y values. And remember, what we have to do is we just have to substitute our x values into our equation over there. So let's do that, yes? Okay, so my first y value equal to 2x, yeah? So I'm going to substitute my first x value there, yeah? Yeah? Sorry, let me just write that one properly, yes? 2 multiplied by -1, what does that give me? -3, yes? Plus 3. And -3 plus 3 is what? 0, right? So my first y value is 0, right? Okay, so let's now calculate our second y value. Y equal to 2, yes? I'm substituting it. 0 plus 3, y equal to 2 multiplied by 0 is 0, plus 3, 0 plus 3 gives me what? 3, right? So my second y value is 3, yeah? Okay, so let's find our last y value, yeah? So that would be 2, open bracket, 2, I'm substituting my last x value over there, plus 3. So my y will be equal to 2 multiplied by 2 gives me what? 4, plus 3, yes? And y equal to 4 plus 3 gives me +7, yeah? Okay, so there we go. We have our x and y values in coordinate form. Yes, remember coordinate form, -2, 0, yeah, 0, +3, and +2, +7, yeah. So we have our coordinates over there, and all what we have to do now is we have to plot them. And remember, you always start with the x value, yes? So my first coordinate over there is -2, 0, yes? -2, 0. Right there. And my second coordinate is 0, +3. Yeah. My last coordinate is 2, yeah, 2, +7, somewhere there. Yes. Okay. So what the remaining thing that we have to do is what? Is join our points over there. Yes. And how do we do that? We do that by simply drawing a straight line, or joining them with what? With a straight line. Yes. So let's try to do that. Yes, there we go. And this is our graph of y equal to 2x plus 3. Yeah. Okay. So in our next lesson, we'll be looking at how to plot straight line graphs. Yeah, from a linear equation involving fractions. Okay. All right. I'll see you in our next class. Bye bye.